The adult beverages are poured, the kids are asleep. Welcome to New Dad Gaming, a show about fatherhood, gaming, and new fathers figuring out their gaming lives. My name is Trevor, and I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old.
And I'm Jeff. I have an 11-year-old, an 8-year-old, and a cup of coffee. No adult beverage for me tonight. This is coffee night.
Yeah, us both. It is one of those evenings for gaming dads. We're going to crank the caffeine and try to get through this. Speaking of being tired and speaking of being wary, had a sort of unexpected on-field romance blooming, which I didn't think I'd have to deal with so early. But my son is currently playing soccer, comes home the one day, and he's like, Dad, this girl who plays net, the goalie, I want her to be my girlfriend. I really like the goalie. So it's like, Dad, can the goalie be my girlfriend? I was like, I don't know, son. Sounds like she's a keeper.
Oh, jeez. You know what? I keep telling myself every episode, nope,
every week
won't go along with this story just in case.
And I was like, it's all right. I'm going to do it right at the beginning, and Jeff's definitely going to see through it.
Nope.
Right at the beginning.
See, your kids play soccer, so I'm like, yeah, okay. Sounds great.
And at some point, they're going to come home and be like, I'm infatuated with someone. So.
You already got your joke lined up. She's a keeper.
She's a keeper. It's like, Dad, how come every time I come to you for advice, you have a dad pun? It's like, well, son.
So when you go into another one, it's just an endless cycle.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not going to ask anymore.
I'm one half of the dynamic duo known as New Dad Gaming. Now, this week we had a wonderful chance to speak to other gamers online. We posted up a Twitter poll and got some awesome answers. Really, some good responses, too. It was really wonderful to see. But, Jeff, what was the question you would pose to the good gamers out there?
Yeah, so I posed to our audience the most underused spell in any RPG against enemies, not yourself, but against enemies. So the choices were sleep, death, petrify, and poison.
Yeah, that was great. I mean, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, that is absolutely true. It's like, you've learned petrify. I'm like, neat. Into the back. Like, is there some way I can sort it so it just goes to the bottom and exactly. I never have to deal with it?
Yeah.
That's upsetting in the fact that like those all sound cool. Those could turn the tide of battle. And besides poison, like none of them ever work.
Ever. Never.
So underused for sure. Who would ever touch these things? And people came out, the usual friends of the show, with some excellent responses. We had Donnie G Retro comes with, I don't recall ever using petrify successfully on anything.
Pretty much. That's my experience as well. So,
Gamers Week podcast. I'm gonna say death because it has such a high failure rate. You almost hate to waste your turn on it. Yeah. Jeff, have you ever killed a thing in an RPG with death?
Never. And if I tried, they would usually have like reflect, and it would just come back on me anyway. So I learned my lesson.
So technically you killed something, but it was just your own character.
Self-inflicted. Awesome.
Everett, which is a solid nope rope, says, in most RPGs, these spells are mostly useless, but in FF8, they're so damn good. Well, poison is as good as the other. Now, this is fascinating. Mm-hmm. Junction to status attack or status defense and have fun. Now, I don't understand those terms because I never played Final Fantasy VIII. What's this about?
Yeah, so that was a system that I never properly learned, because when this came up, I'm like, that is a good call. So you could junction spells to your weapon or your armor, and it depends on like if you're attacking with it or absorbing it. So if you junction petrify or poison to your weapon, you just have that more of a chance to have it work. That's fun.
Is that to say every time you attack with that weapon, when it's junctioned or attached to it, it casts it at the same time?
It's like a roll of the dice. So like eventually you'll get 1 in 100 attacks. But if you're always attacking, right? And then you junction higher, you can, Final Fantasy VIII was all the draw system. So you get more spells out, and the more you junction, the better chance. So that's a system I never learned. So thank you for teaching me. I learned something.
Now you got to go back and play the game.
Maybe.
So we got Dongy Forever says, sleep since it didn't work on bosses and more powerful enemies. Way too true. Sean Saunders at Slaw Saunders says, got to go with death because its hit rate is usually absurdly low if you use it, like mimicking the other and being absolutely on point. Mm-hmm. Oh boy. See, Kurl? Kiryl?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Okay, and his constant failures with thwack in the NES version of Dragon Quest IV. I've used Petrify more simply because of Beowulf and Final Fantasy Tactics.
Right.
Retro Gaming Bygones Network says negotiate.
Yes.
Now, he may laugh, but in Undertale, that was probably actually an action you could take.
Yeah.
So I like that one. And Retro Wars at Wars_retro says sleep unless it's Pokemon because you wake the jerk up when you hit them.
It's true. As soon as you put them to sleep, you can't do anything. So great.
Man, so great. So that great responses, awesome poll. So happy to see everybody vote on it, and the responses were making me and Jeff laugh. So everyone, thanks so much for reaching out on this poll. Now I want to discuss something where it's a world of pure Imagi-Minecraft.
This is your term. This is something that you came up with, right?
Yeah, it was such a great experience. So I was playing a Minecraft with my kids this morning. So it's on the weekend. This will be usually our gaming time. They have had some sessions since the last time I visited their world.
Okay.
And it's like, hey, Dad, come and play, like, see our stuff. And I was like, okay. You just drop down into a Willy Wonka-like experience of, okay, so we have a 80-foot tall mushroom over here.
Okay.
There is chunks down to the core of the earth missing on this side. Mm-hmm. There is skeletons on fire trapped in cages. There is bonsai. It's like, what is happening? What have you done? There's just so much stuff. Like, to see a space where kids have just untethered imagination and access to build anything.
Yeah.
Like paired with ideas that they've gotten from videos or other kids, or just like as they've drawn, like dreams that they've had, which they've told me about. You just go into their world after a while, and you're just walking around like a tourist, looking at all these wild things that they've created. Have you had anything similar of seeing what your kids have been up to when you're not in their worlds for a while?
Yeah, basically it's like kind of you explained, it's a living journal of just what their mind is kind of ticking through. So I've gone to my 8-year-old's world, and he had an irrigation system underground to feed the zombies or creepers or something that he was keeping captive. So I'm like, oh, great, you're feeding him. That's great. That's awesome. But he's also a prisoner. He's like, don't worry, Dad. I let him out every now and then. I'm like, oh, that's great. And then later on, he's got this other like dome-like arena. I'm like, do you bring them in here to to battle to the death? He's like, no. This is where I fight, the enemies that I pick, and they come in. I'm like, oh, great. Okay, well, let's put this game down for a bit and have a talk.
let's go for a walk and discuss some feelings.
But it's wild, man. Like, even just, it's literally like walking around your kid's mind, just taking in the sights, and you're like, huh, use this in therapy later.
God, that is such an apt way to put it, because if you were able to kind of catapult in there and get a sense of what they're thinking about, what they're really focused on at that particular moment, what they're really interested in, it probably makes its way into the game, be it playing with creatures, building massive buildings, armor. Like, it was utterly fascinating. It was such an awesome experience, honestly, like just walking around, and then to have them as tour guides, where they were like, they would find me and then in game want to float in front of me to show me like, oh, come check this out, and then you flip this lever and then this goes up and then this fire, and then they get that big excited burst as they're walking through these creations. Absolutely adore it. So like the being led through your kids, you put it great. I love the idea, like it's a diary of what your kid's currently thinking.
It's kind of like, it kind of makes you want to save parts of it, right? Like, if you could, I know you can save the world, but obviously the world gets raised and rebuilt in a night with how our kids operate. But, like, save a video of just them walking around like, hey, this was you at, 8 years old. This was your mind. This is what you thought about building. So yeah, it's kind of neat.
That's awesome. So definitely, if you have a dad if your kid is playing Minecraft and you haven't had a chance to be like in game, like be a character and walk through their world, to kind of get that first person vantage point of it, it's fascinating. I really suggest it. It's really cool for gaming dads to check that stuff out.
Yeah, I agree.
Now, so a game you had mentioned before, I was sort of interested in this, and it segues to a few things I want to talk about, but you had discovered a really great card game to play with your kids So something tactile, something offline, which having this stuff as well is always great. So it was Sushi Go, I believe
Yeah.
is the name.
Yeah, so Sushi Go is a pretty, I won't say easy, but it's a good entry point for a card game. And you need at least, I think at least 3 players. It's better with the whole 4-player set. But
Mhm.
it's a, if your kids like sushi, it's even better. But it's these cards that have funny pictures of sushi on them. And it's something that you just kind of, you're trying to collect different kinds of sushi, get different kind of sets of sushi that all match, and then there's a point system. So you play 3 rounds, everybody gets cards, then you take one of those cards and you pass it to the player on your left, and then they
Mm.
restock, and then they have to take one, and then you play 3 rounds of that, and then at the end you lay out your sushis and you count the points, and everyone has a good laugh because again it's just cute cards and it's a fun game to play. And then there's different cards in there that mix it up, like there's chopsticks that you can take the sushi away from your next player or something. So it's a really cute game. My kids loved it. When my youngest was 5, he was actually playing it. So it's, as long as you're there to guide them, it's a really easy entry point to these kind of
Mm.
games. So totally recommend it. And there's a even bigger one, Sushi Go, like Family or something, that's a little bit bigger and gives you more cards and options. So it's definitely a recommend.
Okay, yeah, because I'm always looking at the type of stuff like something tactile, something offline,
Yeah.
something to get them thinking kind of like strategically, but not too seriously, and
Yeah.
having some fun. So Sushi Go, that's a dad recommendation. I initially kind of thought of it because on the previous week you had mentioned that
Yeah.
your kid had potentially wanted to look into Dungeons and Dragons, and I
Hmm.
was curious the update on where that's landed.
So
Or-
the update. Yeah, we went back home and watched a couple YouTube videos on just how this would work. Just
Mhm.
even the starter pack for Dungeons and Dragons, getting into it. I myself have never played, so it was good kind of tutorial for me to see too. The interest kind of died there a little bit.
When faced with the actual game, it's like, maybe
Yeah, like I
not.
think the idea is very interesting to my 11-year-old, but running it and maybe being a little bit more quote unquote out of the box thinking with Dungeons and Dragons, because it kind of promotes that creative thought,
Hmm.
wasn't too into it right away. So I think we'll get like another game that kind of eases him towards something like that. It was just a little bit too open, too campaigny for
Okay.
now. So I think we're gonna hold off on that. Maybe look at something a little bit different.
Okay, so this becomes very interesting, and I'm hoping that some gaming dads listening can reach out to us on Twitter or at our website at New Dad Gaming or newdadgaming.com, because you and I find ourselves in a similar situation.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened in my house is one of the favorite things my kids love to do is they'll sit with my wife or I, they'll find coloring pages online.
Okay.
So Zombies versus Plants or Among Us or just Marvel characters.
Yep.
We print them, they color them. Just like we have pages
Perfect.
upon pages upon pages of it.
Yeah.
I love the creativity. I will waste as much ink as they want on
Yep.
this type of thing. I came downstairs one time to find that they had laid out many of these across the floor,
Okay.
and they were having certain cards battle certain cards. So they're saying, okay, well, my Deadpool Among Us is going to fight the big zombie, and the big zombie is going to fight Captain America, and they're doing all these kind of and there's this big sprawling battle going on. Like their heads were exploding with imagination and excitement.
Nice. That's a
Uh,
creative way to do it.
Now, I used to be very much into Magic the Gathering.
Okay, here it comes. All right.
So
If you didn't know,
I'm seeing them get into this, and I'm just like, huh. That reminds me a lot of.
you didn't like rush in there and tear out the page. No, no.
You can't. You don't have the right mana to cast this one. Come on. But it made me think about, is there such a game like Magic or like Pokemon, like any of those card games, those tactile card games, kind of like what we talked about?
Yeah.
But in that battle system, is there? Because the kids love video games, they love battling, but they love these characters, and we're starting to get into pages or kind of like cards going against each other.
Right.
Can I segue this into a sneaky math lesson / offline game thing that also was a secret passion of mine when I was much younger? And it got me thinking, like, does a card game exist for kids?
That's a good question. I mean, I'm sure it does in some way or form. I haven't discovered a good one. Put it that way.
Yeah, that now the I mean, just before we got on, like I did an initial search, I didn't find anything great
Yeah.
that I could see. Right, a lot of stuff seemed either too complicated or not really in the right vein for what I was kind of hoping for. We did find, for instance, though, I think I have like 4 or 5 examples here, like DreamWorks How to Train Your Dragon, The Hidden World, Battle Royale game for kids. Now that's nonsense.
They just put in keywords to make you buy it. It's kind of like Fortnite. Get your
Yeah,
kids in on this.
just say Fortnite to get your like Google ranking. That's such nonsense. So, but this one is, I think it's ranked like 8 years plus. I tend to find these games. It's kind of you can kind of subtract 2 years along, especially if you're there with them.
Yeah. Yes.
But this is you have to remain the top dragon on the top, and then you get to put a token. If you put 3 tokens in, you win the game.
Yeah.
Relatively fast, relatively fun. You said it's like another game that you had seen.
Well, that one is a little bit different than what I was thinking, but we were going towards more of the Minecraft. There's a licensed Minecraft game
That is right.
that is somewhat similar, but not quite. That's where the license actually works, where the Minecraft brand transfers over into a good board game. And the board game, well, it's not actually a board game, it's just cards. And there's like a physical block with multi-blocks that you pick at through getting the cards and going around. That looks kind of cool. Getting my kid from the digital Minecraft into the board game Minecraft might be easier sell.
It's such a dad. This works, Jeff. We've stumbled upon such an awesome dad hack. If this works,
I agree.
because listen, son, you have had too much video games today. You are not allowed to play any more video games. Oh, Dad. But what if I told you we can play some more Minecraft?
But wait, there's more.
And you pull out this board game, and ideally it's a good game, and it's enticing. And it's like, great, well, you can do that. You just have to add 2 plus 5. Isn't that math? No, it's Minecraft.
Absolutely not. Yeah. It's cubes. What are you talking about?
Now you need to think 2 steps ahead. Isn't that planning and strategy? No, it's Minecraft. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You know what? Like I see such if we can pull this off, I see such potential in this of covering many facets: offline, family quality time, educational strategy, math, portable. Like it, if it works, if it would only work.
Yeah, and even just like handling behavior, right? So like if my kids get upset when they get kicked off the screens. I'll be honest, they do not like it. So, but if it transfers over to something that they do like into board game form, perfect. I think they'll be better with that. So,
so the other enticing, I think what's going to be good for us is now the DreamWorks one that we had previously mentioned, the Dragon one, seems like it's a fast one. It actually has D&D style dice included.
Oh, gateway drug.
So that one kind of felt like a bit of a gateway.
Yeah.
That one's interesting.
Okay.
The Minecraft one is the straight shot of like, hey kid, you like Minecraft? You're grounded from video games. Let's go do this low-key math stuff and have some fun together.
Yeah.
Some others that we had seen. So there's something called Animals and Legends card games, a unique strategy deck building game for kids, teens, and adults. Sneaky tactics and aggressive attacks, 2 to 4 players.
Some of these words are just
Yeah, I know.
sneaky attacks. Oh, thanks. That was great.
So it seems like it's got those elements. So it's more fun, friendly animals like lions and unicorns, things like that.
Yeah.
Looks kind of interesting. Now this one in particular I was interested in and was curious your thought if it would maybe pique your interest, because the 5-minute dungeon fun card game for kids. So that it is like it's Dungeons and Dragons but focused on like 5-minute sessions.
I think that's a good sell, the 5-minute part. Even just to grab their attention for, a quick game and then change it up and then go to the next game. If that's how it works, that's how it functions. But looking at it, there's a bunch of player cards and almost like player mats to it with a little bit of strategy and hit points and stuff.
So I'm curious. Now we had different reactions to this, and I'd be curious about gaming dads who are listening if they write in and tell us their thoughts. I looked at this, and for each one, there's 2 sets of cards, like 4 different types of tokens, different piles, different colors, different things to go on.
Yeah.
My immediate thought was this seems too complicated. Bit of a non-starter. You didn't feel that way though.
No, like we have a similar game that looks like this. It's called Dice Throne, and it looks like this where if you're there to guide them, it's not that complicated. I think laid out, it looks like a lot of systems in play, but really it's just going to be like, oh, I collect this token on this card and that goes over here. And then I might not get all of those tokens in one go. They're just all there as options, right? So I don't think it's as complicated. And I think that some of these games with the age ranges and stuff and the descriptions, they aren't good descriptions. And before COVID hit, there used to be like board game cafes that we would go to as a family and try out board games. And that was a great way to get into these things because it really doesn't sell you through pictures. Like if you could play it and your kids are interested in it, I'd buy it in a heartbeat, right? So
It's like, I didn't know that. So I've been to a board game cafe, but it was very much like an adult drink and laugh type scenario. You've actually gone to a board game cafe as a family experience and it worked?
yeah. There was one, I don't know if it exists anymore, but it was in just in Hamilton. So it's about 20 minutes from where I am. And it was certain hours of the day. So after like, I think 8 or 9 p.m., it would just switch into adult mode, right? So they would have,
The red lights come on and like,
the
kids,
beer
avert
came
your
out.
eyes.
Like, the music changed. Yeah. So you could book during the daytime and go and have a table to yourself and they had a whole spectrum of games. So anything from like super, super complicated to more family game, like, and even older games. Like Pictionary and Tribond was one that I played as a kid, and we tried up a bunch that we'd never heard before, and kids loved it. And even just the initial experience, you can kind of gauge their interest. And if you didn't like it, you just put it back on the shelf and get another one. It was awesome.
Damn. Okay. I didn't relay the experience between what I experienced it with a game cafe and actually from the family, but it sounds like it's actually a phenomenal way to test run something before dropping like $30-$40 onto one of these board games, which may not work.
Well, that's just it, right? And then it just sits there and collects dust, and you kind of look at it every time you walk by, and you're like, we should play this. Oh.
Yeah. And the last one I saw, which was sort of an interesting pitch, was at Spin Master Games Marvel 5-Minute Dungeon, so the same one before.
Yeah.
But Marvel, right? So it's the exact same premise, like it's the exact same game, but just done with Hulk and their various villains, Green Goblin, Red Skull here, Loki.
Yep.
Wow, that was a terrifying looking Loki. Lord. Okay.
Maybe that's where the age range comes in. Like the artwork is a little bit much.
But this felt like an even better segue because if my kids are adore superheroes, and you get them in a board game, and it's kind of the card thing they're trying to get them towards the math angle, but hey, here's like Captain America that you love so much, like why don't we try out this game?
Yeah, again, it's a good tie to get them in, right? Like much like the Minecraft game. Hey, here's Marvel. Oh, okay. Let me follow along.
Man, so I am so fascinated by this and the sort of convinced. I'm going to definitely pick up one of these ones. I have to find one that's age appropriate for my 6-year-old that could handle it. I think I could something like 8+, because I think as long as I'm there, I think I could guide it towards them, and I think they tend to up those ages for safety's sake.
Yeah.
So I will get one and report back. Again, if any gaming dads have had some big successes, do reach out.
There is one little wrench I'm going to throw into this, or option.
Damn it, Jeff.
Let's say this. I was when I was looking at Dungeons and Dragons, I'm like, maybe we don't do get this right now. On Steam, the tabletop simulator. Mm-hmm. I was looking at that. I'm like, can I try it out there because it's a lot cheaper, and then get the physical board game. So that might be an option. Just to even look at maybe not these 5-minute ones, but something else, because a lot of the popular ones have converted into this tabletop simulator. I'm not sure exactly how it works, but it's almost like people mod in the game or something, and you can check it out and play it. Again, you want them off the screen. I think that's the ultimate goal, but at least you can kind of get a taste for the mechanics of it and then bring it off. But I don't know.
That's a good point. So I would relate to saying I wouldn't mind trying it on the iPad.
Mm-hmm.
See if there is a kid/family friendly version of this card/Dungeon Dragon type thing that I could download. My problem with mobile anything that's digital seems to be, especially in this type of realm,
Yeah.
monetized through the absolute teeth. It's ridiculous.
Absolutely, yeah.
So the thought that I'd be able to find like a real like pay once
Good
whole
luck.
experience,
Yeah, good luck.
ugh, not so much. Although I'll say there are some games like Catan that you have to pay, but that tends to be this is the game. Sure, there's add-ons like they're trying to monetize it, whatever. But
Right.
at least like the initial purchase does get you. This is the digital version. You and a bunch of people can play.
It's contained, yeah.
Yeah, off you go. And, I'll
Not
say
by
this,
this
that
character.
I had. It's not a great thought, and I don't think it's the right thought. But if I'm honest, it's the thought that I had, and I think back to my problem with all of this thinking. I'm still going to do it because I think it's going to be fun. It's an opportunity for offline family fun.
Yep.
Great. Some of my thoughts went to though is I went back to myself in high school. Now, perhaps
Hi,
you
self.
or yeah, perhaps you or listeners would disagree, but generally I turned out fine.
Okay. Yes.
But at high school, I can remember just being hyper nerdy and playing Magic like on lunchtime with buddies of mine. So we're at the lunch and maybe this is maybe like I'm just kind of some classic old world thinking that it really has no place anymore. But there's just something about that world, that particular angle of gaming, whether it's offline, Dungeon Dragon, Magic the Gathering, tabletop. It just feels like it lends itself to some somewhat antisocial behaviors of it. And again, I'm going to be very clear again. I feel like a lot of bad assumptions of mine are coming through, but I'm being honest with where my head went
Right.
when I started to think about it. It's like, am I in danger of affecting my son socially by introducing him to hobbies that classically were seen as somewhat antisocial? If I can kind of phrase it like that, with all the caveats that I put in place as far as kind of perhaps outdated thinking on such things.
Yeah, like again, if I look back at high school Jeff, I wasn't at that table. But I remember that table.
You're like, I used to throw things at that table.
No, I didn't. But I would ignore the table. But I don't think it would be antisocial at all because that table was stacked with people that love that game, and they seem to all hang out together and talk together and share that bond through that game. And I just think nowadays, I don't think that would fly anymore. Like look at Marvel. Marvel used to be a nerdy thing, and now everybody like blockbuster movies, right? So
True.
I don't think you'll get the same kind of reaction, and I think we've taught our kids a little bit more in terms of respect and bullying and allowing people to have their their own
people have
likes
fun.
and dislikes, right? So
I think you're probably right. And
be okay.
even with video, like just how unanimous Fortnite is as a central place where a bunch of people have played Among Us, like these cultural touchstones that have permeated now. And like you said, comics, like just it's
yeah,
Marvel
different.
and all these superheroes are kind of blown up. So A, perhaps it's just old world thinking, and B, it's also just out of sync with the time where and perhaps new generations have really embraced it and I'm really overthinking it.
You need to drag all your magic cards out of the closet there, Trevor.
Don't tempt me.
The box in the
I am
attic.
All right, I'm so tempted. Listen.
Unless they're like collectibles, then just don't. Just leave them in there.
I still have my deck,
Okay.
and it's a pretty good deck. Well, I'm sure like it's out of like format now, but like there's a couple stores near where I live,
Okay.
and they do what's called a magic draft. So it's like you go in, and they open a pack, and then like one by one you have to choose it. Obviously, if you go this round, I go first. Next round, you go first. You pick the best card.
Yeah.
You build a deck and you play it. It is the most like old school nerdy thing I've heard.
Yeah.
But I look at it longingly from afar, as far as like, firstly, like, could I find the time to do it with a busy dad schedule?
Right.
Could I get over my hang-ups and just get into the damn store and like have fun? Like, obviously now this type of thing, I hope this type of thing starts back up. Of course, it's those type of in-person things had been canceled during times of COVID. But
Yeah.
just say, you talk about dusting off Magic, but it's always just right there. And I'm thinking about it. The digital, I tried to get into the digital version, MTG Arena.
Not the same.
It's kind of fun, but it's just so monetized. It's painfully monetized.
Yeah.
And confusing. Like it's keeping up with anything that's happened. Like I'd lay down one card and 30 things would happen. My opponent lays it down, 4 things happen, then I die, and it's like, hey, great, do you want to buy another magic pack? I'm like, I don't know that I do.
Yeah, no, I say you go out there and go to that store, have that fun, slow the car down to a crawl and, turn off the music, turn off the gas, and get out and go play some Magic.
I'm just standing outside in the rain, like just like slowly
No
walking
umbrella,
inside, like
just tears. Are they tears
like,
or is it
sir,
rain?
sir, you've been here every week for a month. You just want to come in and play? I don't think I can.
Really?
May I? I imagine, like many things, I'm overthinking it. So, hey, let's take that opportunity to wrap it up there. Gaming Dad's lots of requests there. If you have any thoughts on magic or spells or any polls that we put out there, find us at Twitter at New Dad Gaming. If you have recommendations for card games, have you had a success with your kids playing offline with a battle card or Dungeons and Dragons, something tinier, more age appropriate, but opportunity for family time, we'd love to hear that and feature it on the show. You can, again, the Twitter handle was at New Dad Gaming, or you can find us at our website, newdadgaming.com. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to share any dad wisdom you might have. If you like the podcast, you can find this on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, any of the major podcasting networks. This year, as we're trying to get out to as many gaming dads as possible, to start a little magic club for dads where there's going to be no judgments, just bad plays. What really helps is a subscription on any of those platforms. What really, really helps is a rating and a comment. That really helps to boost the signal to other gaming dads and get us out there as much as possible. We'd really appreciate it. So, as I said, if you'd like to get a hold of the show at New Dad Gaming, newdadgaming.com. Would appreciate a subscription. Do this show every week, and we'd love to hear from you. Listen, thank you so much for listening. This has been New Dad Gaming. My name is Trevor, and I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old.
And I'm Jeff. I'm an 11-year-old and an 8-year-old. And just remember, just because you became a dad
does not mean it's game over.
Nice.
Get in that store.
Get in that store. That's right.
Buy that pack. Yeah. It's cool now.
That's right.
You do you. We'll see you next week.
See you there.